Welcome, everyone. If you could put in the chat where you're Zooming from, where's home to you, and what your favorite meal is, that would be great. And I will add that myself as well. Awesome. For anyone new in the chat, could you introduce yourself? So where are you Zooming from? Where's home to you? And what is your favorite meal? Stephanie, does Dallas or Austin have good Italian food?
I feel like Dallas does, yes, but Austin, unfortunately, no.
Okay. I feel like when I think of Texas, I do not go straight to Italian. So that's why I was just curious. Okay, we have another pasta with Aisha. And then just Chinese food. That's good too.
Pasta. Y'all are picking some pasta is not I don't know if that's a strength of the Nashville food scene, but the food trucks, I'm sure we could find an Italian food truck or market that has what you need. I will say there's a place near campus that not many people know about called Nicoletta's, and Nicoletta's
Really good.
has great homemade pasta.
It's really good. I got their chicken parmesan one time, and I'm not even kidding. The chicken breast was this big. It was like 3 meals. Zooming from Boston. Sylvia, you have come to the right place. Oh, do we have a Sylvia and a Sylvie? I think so. And they're both in Boston. Wow.
Oh.
I did my undergrad in Boston, and Katie is from Boston, so. Dumplings. If you haven't already, we would love for you to introduce yourself.
we have quite the group that's joined us today. Thank you, everyone, for making time to be here. This webinar is about the Learning and Design program. So those who are here in attendance, we have two current students who will introduce themselves in a moment. Everyone else is either helping us manage the Zoom call or is an admitted student to the program. This webinar will be recorded and made available to admitted students later, just so you know. And everything in the chat we can see and we'll try to keep track of. So if a question comes up and you don't feel like chiming in, or you don't feel like you have a chance to interject, feel free to post in the chat and we'll try to monitor that as best we can, Katie, Leah, and I, so that we can pause and respond to questions that you might have. So I'll start. I'm Andy Hostetler. I'm the director of the program, the Learning and Design program. I've been at Vanderbilt for 10 years and came originally from Ohio, but taught in high schools in Charleston, South Carolina, and Northeast Ohio before moving to the Westerville area near Columbus and eventually here to Nashville after I finished my PhD at Kent State University. Leah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Leah. I'm a current student in Learning and Design. I am originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I chose to come straight to the program from my undergrad in Boston, and I have loved this program so much, and I'm happy to share it with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I'm also a current student here in the Learning and Design program. I completed my undergrad at the University of Vermont this past May. So I also went from my undergrad straight into grad school. And yeah, did I already say I'm from Boston? I can't even remember now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your experiences and sharing some information with you.
Before we move to the next slide, this picture on the bottom is the current L&D cohort. This was taken at our first brunch meal. We've done many since, and we did this during the summer. And Andy, during his class, was like, hey, building this cohort is really an important part of the program. So we're going to skip class and go out to brunch.
Did I say that? That doesn't sound
You
like
did
me.
say that.
Okay, so just a
quick importance of the cohort. So
that's right. Just a quick agenda. We did sort of an introductory kind of thing. We have that captured in the chat so that we can kind of learn a little bit about you and where you're coming from. We want to talk a little bit about the program itself and give you a sense of who the faculty are you'll be interacting with the most, and as well as some of the core experiences and fieldwork opportunities you might have. Then we'll talk a little bit about the professional trajectory of many of the students, where they end up working after graduation and that sort of thing. And then, of course, Katie and Leah can tell you a little bit about student life and the cohort itself and what they've gotten involved with here on campus. They've had some unique opportunities, both as either program assistant or teaching assistant, and also to engage with a broader community, going to conferences and that sort of thing. So we want to share a little bit about that kind of thing, and then we'll give some updates on important dates and make sure that we have time for Q&A if you have questions at the end. But as I said, if you have questions anytime during, just post them in the chat or raise your hand and chime in, and we'll try to make sure we're responding to those. So first and most important, congratulations on your acceptance to the program. There are a lot of qualified applicants every year, and you all stood out as having something unique and special about you that we wanted to extend and offer to come and join us. And we really, really hope that you'll consider coming to join us. We mostly want to use this as an opportunity to give information so that you can make an informed decision about what's best for you. I think in many cases, the prospective students I interact with are often considering multiple programs and/or pathways. So with Learning and Design in particular, you might have a couple different options that you're thinking through. And we really want to make sure you have everything you need to make a decision that's best for you. So that's one of the reasons we're here this early in the process. And between now and the time you make your choice, feel free to reach out to me or Katie or Leah if there's anything we can do to offer some insight or offer some explanation so that you feel like you're making a good decision for you. Okay. The program itself is built around three core aspects of learning and design. The program most often prepares people for professional work in settings, sometimes that are schools, but often are non-school based learning environments. And so one of the things we focus on is a learning core, and that learning core explores learning theories and how we apply those learning theories both in formal settings and informal settings. The formal settings referring to schools, but also thinking of museums, library programs, sort of set opportunities that are designed specifically for groups of people to create that formal learning experience. But we also think a little bit about informal settings and the ways that people's sort of self-guided or unstructured experiences in the world might lead to meaningful learning opportunities. So, thinking about the way people interact at parks with certain features of a park place could be one example of that. But also, when it's not an intentionally designed program, it's just a library space that people are using in the community. We think a little bit about how people learn in those settings as well. So those are just some examples, but you have one course, which we'll go over courses in just a moment, but you have at least one course focused on learning theory, but all courses pay attention to learning as a core feature of what we're trying to think through. Then the design core, this explores opportunities to think through a design process, a more systematic approach to problem solving, program development, program revision, curriculum development. That's all part of what we might be thinking about in terms of bolstering a learning environment or learning experience. And so that design process becomes a really important feature of the program and what you'll learn here. And then, of course, the diversity core. We have some aspirational goals in our mission and vision as a department and as a program built around wanting to explore equity and diversity in learning environments and think about how we can pay attention to features of the learning environment that might be more responsive to people of diverse backgrounds. And so we want to think through how we're paying attention to that as part of a central named component in our program. The faculty that you'll get to interact with, of course, me. I'm the Director of Learning and Design and would be the advisor for most of you. We also have Dr. Nicole Joseph, who's an Associate Professor of Math Education and Associate Dean for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And we have Dr. Chris Neal, who's a Senior Lecturer for Learning and Design, and Dr. Heidi Carlone, Professor of Science Education. The faculty here teach most of your core courses, but of course you have a lot of elective space as well. So yes, you'll have opportunities to interact with the folks on the screen, but there's also a series of about 5 elective courses you'll be able to sign up for, and you could have lots of meaningful opportunities with other faculty who aren't listed here. So that's something that's important to recognize as well. I teach a summer course that you'll take. That's essentially learning out of school, learning in the community. Dr. Joseph teaches an equity and diversity course in the summer that you take. So those are your first 2. Dr. Neal teaches a curriculum design course and the capstone experience for you. And Dr. Carlone teaches the learning theories class in the fall. So those are some of the core courses that you'll have. In the spring, there is an inquiry into context course that I teach. So you'll be in a couple of my classes. The way the courses are laid out are on the next couple of slides. Your summer courses, we really try to look at 2 things, kind of an overview of learning in the community, get to know Nashville, get to know each other. That's kind of the learning out of school course. And then, of course, looking at the historic and contemporary issues that shape education and learning is an important feature of the program. So we want to kind of lead off with that in the summer. When you get to the fall, there's 2 courses that are required, and then 2 elective courses that you pick from. The learning theories course called Learning and Instruction, and then a Designing for Context course. So these get at 2 central core aspects of learning for the program, the design core and the learning core. And then the elective courses, we often provide a a meeting with a list of all elective courses that are being offered and recommendations from prior students. So those who have come before you have given their input on which courses were good courses, and we tried to use that to shape a list of recommendations. But some courses that I know people take are courses in human geography, courses in the policy and education world, courses in community and action. And so there are several, thank you, Leah. There are several elective course options that we know are going to be happening this fall, including embodied cognition, some literacies courses. We have EL courses, multilingual learners, and critical race theory courses. So you kind of have the opportunity to build a theme within your learning, whatever you would like that theme to be. If you want a policy-oriented theme or a curriculum development-oriented theme or a working with linguistically diverse learners theme, there's opportunities for you to think through that. Or if you know that eventually you want to do a PhD, you just weren't quite ready for that, we have some courses that focus on more theoretical aspects of teaching and learning, so embodied cognition, and those sorts of things.
Do you want to talk about the spring course or move on to capstone?
Oh, yeah. So the spring course, Inquiry into Context, we're running right now and we'll run again next spring, is essentially trying to leverage a design-based or design-informed research methodology. So how do we approach community and social change in organizations where learning happens by asking a question, exploring resources and literature about that, thinking about what kind of data we could collect, and then planning for a data collection effort. And so that's kind of what that course is built around, is how do we think about inquiry and research from a more public orientation rather than a private or scholarly only academic orientation. And then you get 3 electives in the spring. So that's where you round out your 5 elective courses. Leah and Katie, do you want to say anything about the electives in particular? Like what stands out to you about those, or what did you take that was of interest?
I can go first. I have a similar background to Katie. We're both doing social studies education, or that's what we're intending to do in the future. But we have taken a variety of non-social studies education classes, but also like diverged in our course elective choices. Something that's really interesting is that I am currently taking a history class in the history department. And you can do that. It's really easy to be able to take courses outside of the teaching and learning department within Peabody, but then also outside of Peabody, just in the greater Vanderbilt course list. So yeah.
Yeah, Leah, I think you summed it up perfectly. So there's nothing else for me to add.
Great. Every master's degree program here has a capstone that must be completed. The capstones are part of your degree requirement. They are not locked into a single course, but they do sort of encompass a demonstration of your learning across your experience. So this is in place of a thesis, which we moved away from into something that we think is more practical and useful. The capstone experience does have a seminar that accompanies it. So you get some guidance and some mentoring from PhD students and a faculty member. It is a year-long process, and the intention is that you will use it as an opportunity to explore your area of interest, whatever that is, in a little more depth. Getting feedback along the way from mentors who are often PhD students, as well as other Peabody professors. So that's kind of how that's organized. Katie, what's your capstone on? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Do I even know what my capstone's on? No, I'm just kidding. So I am focusing on pre-service social studies education, and specifically looking at the way pre-service educators, especially during their practicum or student teaching placements, can go through like reflective processes and, critically self-reflect on who they are not only as an individual, but as a teacher, their values, and how their identity shapes the environments that they're working in, especially with the students they're interacting with. So currently I'm trying to figure out some sort of tool teachers and educators or pre-service teachers can utilize during these placements to kind of like, go a little bit more in depth. And so, yeah, that pretty much sums it up, I feel like.
That's great. Leah?
I am currently looking at how teaching local history can be used to connect students to their community and to the places that they live. So I had the opportunity to create a lesson plan and actually implement it and teach it at a local high school for 2 class periods. And I'm using the student work for my project.
Great. This next slide, that's a nice transition to this next slide on fieldwork, class projects, and learning opportunities. So maybe you two can elaborate a little bit on some of the photos here or some of the things you've gotten to do.
Katie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the dinosaur one in the bottom right corner, just because that's what I made. So that was in our learning and instruction class. And it also, I think it's the one that Kelsey and Aaliyah are working on in the top left. So basically I guess the prompt for our last class was to create something out of all of these resources that have been like donated and are supposed to be reused to depict or illustrate like a type of learning theory that we learned throughout the semester. And if I can remember correctly, I'm diving deep here in my mind. Each of the dinosaurs are holding a puffball, and each puffball represents an experience that they're carrying. And the track that they're on is like their path, like their learning path. And at each point, the dinosaur will kind of go off track and in a different direction because their participation from the group that they're interacting with, I don't know, kind of ends or is slowly, it's not happening anymore. So they're kind of moving away from that learning pathway. And so I think that was just like a super fun activity to do. And I kept the dinosaurs. I have them. Quinn, my partner who I worked on them with, also has them. And then I can also talk about the photo above it. That's at the Oasis Bike Workshop, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that I partnered with last semester for a service learning project, where we just went to meet with Dan Furbish, who is the worker of the bike workshop, just to see like how they do things, what they do, the significance of their work. And yeah, Leah, do you want to talk about any of the other photos?
Yeah, so this bottom picture right here, we actually had an opportunity to join in a day of research with one of our professors, Dr. Carlone. And so she was doing this field work with a classroom at a park. And so we were invited to join the researchers and take our own observations, which was really interesting and really fun to be able to try to connect the learning theories from that course to what we were seeing. But it was also a way that we were able to get more involved in the research that the professors are doing. And actually, these 2 cohort members are actually now a part of the research team with Dr. Carlone, which is really nice. These 3 pictures are the same class. This is the Designing for Context course in the fall. And we were paired up to go to different organizations in the community, whether it be a school or the Oasis Bike Workshop or somewhere else, and to design a tool that organization can actually use, whether it's in their classroom, in their school, or at the organization. So we have some presentations here, and then we also did this, each group was able to talk about the problem that they were identifying at their organization, and they got peer feedback. So that's what this icebreaker-like activity was doing.
That's great. Thank you both. The final thing with the program specific sorts of info would be just a little bit about where people often end up after they graduate, the kinds of work environments they go off to and their professional trajectories. And so most often folks feel prepared to and go on to either a school-based position that could be classroom teaching, or it could be K-12 design and leadership, so curriculum work or leadership in a school district of some sort. That said, this isn't a licensure program. So this is folks who got a teaching license, then came to this program to learn about design and then went back into the classroom after they graduated. The more typical, I think, trajectory for many of our students is either to go into an out of school or informal learning environment. So museum education, library education, community organizations that have educational missions, those sorts of opportunities, or they go on to further graduate work. They want to do a PhD or something like that, and they use this as a stepping stone to a program like that. So those are 4 typical categories that people end up working in. Currently, we have L&D alumni working in 23 different states, with including beyond that 5 or more countries, and so we have quite a presence from this program spread out throughout the U.S. and beyond.
So
Yeah.
as I was saying earlier, the cohort model is something that I think is unique to Peabody, but even more specifically unique to this program, since this program has everyone start in July and everyone graduate in May. We get really close as a cohort, and also we have those 5 courses that are those 5 required courses that we all take together. So our cohort has done many different things around the city of Nashville, both in classes and outside of classes, that were just fun. And I will say, like, my social life is pretty much centered around the 6 other people in the cohort this year. Katie, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I also agree that my social life is also centered around the cohort. So, but it's great. It's fabulous.
I will say, though, not everyone in the cohort, their social life is just the cohort. So in your 5 electives, you have the opportunity to meet many other people. If you're an international student, they have international student clubs and organizations. And so there are people like that meet their social life through that. There's many different ways to have a social life, but coming into this cohort, I knew that I wouldn't have trouble making friends because there was already a group of people that I would automatically be friends with. So for me, why I chose L&D is I wanted to be a classroom teacher, but I wanted to feel a little bit more prepared to be in the classroom. And I also wanted to be able to learn and explore how learning can happen inside and outside of school, and how I could connect that as a teacher to connect my students more with their community and into my classroom with the curriculum.
Yeah, so what has L&D been like for me? I've had the pleasure of working with so many fabulous individuals in Peabody and also outside of Peabody. I've also had some great opportunities working in different contexts. So last semester I was a teaching assistant with Andy in the social studies secondary education department for undergrad and graduate students. And then for the Designing for Context class, I was placed at the Oasis Bike Workshop, which I mentioned previously, but it's a bike workshop that helps increase youth mobility around the city. So each student who participates in the workshop gets their own bike, which has been donated, and they basically go through the process of building their own bikes. So that was super cool to work with Dan. And then also I had the opportunity to present at the National Council for the Social Studies Conference with Andy, Leah, and some other peers. And so there's just a wide variety of activities you can participate. Yes, Champlain Sunset. How'd you know, Holton? Sorry, that's a side comment, but yes, absolutely love Burlington. But yeah, those are some of the experiences I've had the opportunity to engage with.
And just because we haven't had the experience doesn't mean there are people in our cohort that have been very active doing research as well. So I didn't want to leave without saying that.
So some important dates that are coming up. We have some spring welcome events. March 3rd is a virtual welcome event, followed by 3 different dates for in-person welcome events. You should be getting information from the admissions office about these. If you haven't or feel like you've missed it, you can always email me and I'm happy to connect you with whoever is sending that information out so that you can sign up or get registered for those kinds of events. Our expectation right now, given the academic calendar, is if you choose to join us, we'll be starting our cohort with orientation on Monday, July 11th. Typically, we start this around 9 a.m. and we'll do kind of a program overview and a welcome and get to know each other a little bit, introduce the 2 courses that you'll be taking through the summer, and then summer classes start the following day. So July 12th, you'll be in class. Those classes tend to run in the morning hours, so roughly 8 to noon Central Time is when those courses happen. They end right around August 10th will be the last day, and then you'll have a short break about 10 days before fall classes begin. Fall classes technically start on August 23rd, but there's usually 2 or 3 days of orientation events prior to that for our professional and master's degree graduate students. And so those are some important dates you can make note of. And we'll make sure we keep sending information out to keep you informed as those dates approach. Okay, it's your turn. Any questions for us?
We're happy to answer them in the chat or call on you, or you guys can just speak out as well.
Ooh, I had a question. What kind of like assistantship opportunities are available, and like how do you just like apply or get access to those?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick thing about that, and then both Katie and Leah have had an opportunity to work in assistantships, and so they can elaborate on their experience a little bit. The most typical assistantships are research assistantships, teaching assistantships, and a program assistantship. You can get access to those. Often it's information gets shared, so they'll pass it to me as program director and I'll share it with you all, but you can also access the MED job board, which I'm going to look up and post in the chat in just a moment so that you can see it. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Our Peabody Office of Graduate Admissions is already helping us out with that. So if you check the chat, there's a link to the Peabody job board. And so just checking that often is really important. Sometimes we know well in advance, like we know that we're going to need a program assistant for next year. We know Leah is going to be graduating, and so that's going to be a position that we're going to have to look at resumes for. However, often a grant opportunity comes through for a faculty member, and then they start putting together a team. So they put out a call for applications or resumes for research assistantships, for example. Or once we get a sense of class sizes, we start to get a better handle on where teaching assistantships might emerge as an opportunity. Those often come up, the research and the teaching assistantships often come up just before the next semester is about to happen. So we would know about those in the mid to late summer, probably. In the meantime, if you get to the point where you accept your admissions offer and you want to be considered for certain kinds of assistantships, you should email me right away, send me a resume, and let me know what kinds of assistantships you would like to be sort of considered for, and I can help facilitate some of that. Leah and Katie, do you want to share a little bit about what you've done?
Yeah, so I am the current program assistant for learning and design. So our program will have one. So one of you lucky people might have my job next year. So what I really do is help Andy just facilitate some of the behind the scenes parts of learning and design program. So I made the PowerPoint for today. I will be in communication with you all through the PALS program. But then I also do different logistical things like coordinating, creating the schedule of electives for the next semester. So before you guys will register, I will create for you this huge spreadsheet of all the possible electives that you might be interested with either background information or like a description. And then if we have it, past students' experiences in that actual elective. So that will be sent out when you guys will register. So definitely far in the future, don't think about that, but that is something that I do for my job. And yeah, just different things like that. I also help coordinate, but I'm definitely not the only one coordinating social events for the cohort.
Yeah, and as I kind of mentioned earlier, I was a teaching assistant for the secondary education social studies department. I was a TA for 2 courses, the methods class and also the practicum class. So in the methods class, we're basically talking about like the purposes and practices of social studies education. And then in the practicum, I am working with students who are currently placed in schools before they go into student teaching, working one-on-one, giving feedback, so on and so forth.
Any other questions?
I will just
Hello.
jump. You go.
Please continue.
Oh, I was just
all right.
I was just gonna say,
Please
as
go
a
ahead.
program assistant, I also am part of that facilitation between Andy and the cohort, just part of my job. So if Andy does get like an assistantship opportunity, he will often send it to me and I will disperse it to the cohort. With assistantships, I haven't heard of anyone who wanted a job that didn't get a job. So that's why I definitely send your resume and your interests to Andy. And like, it might not be before July that you know what you're doing, but I haven't heard of anyone who wanted one that didn't get one. Okay, now you can go, sorry.
No, thank you so much. And thank you so much for arranging this session today. I feel like this program has a lot of warm and fuzzy energy to it. And I'm really, really looking forward to joining the cohort this year. I have 2 questions. So number 1 would be, are the context courses that we're going to study, are they going to be US specific? That's question 1. And question number 2 would be, so I am really, really interested in designing non-academic education programs, especially for out of school children in low income communities. So would I have any opportunity to study in that area?
Andy,
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start with the second question that you asked about working with maybe young people in designing programs and out of school programs in low income areas. Our local community partners, of course, you can imagine, become increasingly protective of the folks that they serve and work with. The more those folks are viewed as vulnerable populations. And so that said, it does make access to opportunities a little bit limited. I think that folks in those programs want to make sure that whoever is joining them for an authentic experience and to be a part of the community and really make a contribution. That said, though, the Oasis Center is a strong partner of ours. They work with a lot of young people in the North Nashville area that I think would be a fit for the kind of learning opportunities you're talking about, designing and developing programs for middle and high school aged youth, mostly. I know that there are also organizations like Plant the Seed and other organizations in the community that might have opportunities to do that kind of work. Because we're so flexible with regard to elective opportunities, we are able to try and shape some of those experiences, and with capstone topic selection, we do have the capacity to try and shape some of those experiences uniquely built around your interests. And so if you do have an interest like that and it's brought up and made known early on in the program, we're typically able to find some opportunity for you to learn that kind of fits the bill in order for you to feel like you've had an authentic experience that supports your learning goals. So yeah, there are opportunities similar to the ones you're thinking of, I think. Can you remind me the first part of the question? I want to make sure I answer that too.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering the second question. My first question was, are the context courses that we're going to take at Vanderbilt in this program going to be US specific only?
The core courses and context courses are mostly going to pay attention to US context because that's where our field experiences are going to be. We have inquiry into context and designing for context. Those two courses in particular are concerned with learning environments that by and large are situated within the United States. So that is a feature of the program. That said, we have 5 elective course opportunities, and we have a wonderful international policy and international scholars program called the Humphrey Scholars. And it may be, if you have interest in that, we may be able to think with them about how to incorporate some of your interests and some of the course experiences you hope to have that allow you to explore a more international context for learning. So that could be an opportunity. And if that's something you'd want to know more about before making a decision, let me know in an email. I'd be happy to connect you with Dr. Cravens, who helps to head up some of that work with international scholars, and some of our other faculty members who head up our policy programs as well.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Andy.
We have a question in the chat. Shirley, do you mind if we answer it verbally? Okay, just text in the chat if you want, okay, perfect. So the question is, what is the balance between theories and practices in courses? How much do we get to do things, and how do we learn in a classroom setting? How often are we going to work in the community? So in almost every single course that I've been a part of, there has been some sort of fieldwork aspect. Both of the summer courses have fieldwork aspects, and it actually is so much that they encourage you to double dip, sort of like use the same field experiences for both courses, because you're just, in the summer, I felt like I was running to different parts of Nashville almost every day. So definitely a lot of field work during the summer. In the Designing for Context course, again, you are put in a group and you're going out to an organization that Learning and Design has a partnership with, and you're going through the design cycle to create something that will actually be used for that organization. So it's very context specific, which is what that course is all about. And then as well, in the Inquiry into Context class, we're going into an organization and observing and interviewing people and learning how a partnership can be facilitated and created, and also how you do research in an organization that will benefit that organization. So it's definitely very fieldwork based, but we also get those theory courses so that you have learning theories and different other theories to back up these solutions that you're creating for these actual organizations. Does that answer your question? The first one?
Yes, thank you so much for answering my questions. Just as you mentioned, we are able to have some field work. So for the outside social community, we are able to connect with. Are they the community that have connection with the school, or we can have our own interesting community that we can connect to with?
Yeah, if you have your own partnerships that you are interested in creating, that's definitely an option, and multiple people did that in the Designing for Context course. But there's also a lot of community partnerships that we have with Learning and Design that will be facilitated if you don't have that if you don't want to create your own partnership, or if the place already exists that has a partnership that you want to do. So there's definitely schools, but then there's also the outside organizations like the Oasis Center. And then also, because we have this huge L&D alumni network, there are many people that are still in Nashville that want to facilitate these partnerships at different museums. Andy, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, the only thing, and I think if I'm understanding the last question correctly about STEM options for extension, I don't know if this is a specific thing you're asking about, but if you're just thinking about whether you'll have an opportunity to connect with organizations that focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. We have some on-campus organizations that we can partner with, like a makerspace at the Wond'ry. Makerspaces all over campus. We also have community organization makerspaces at the library, and we have STEM-focused children's museums in the area, especially the Adventure Science Center. So there's some folks in the area that we do know and that we can connect you with if you want to have an experience in the field exploring one of those learning spaces.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Actually, the STEM OPT is like the 3 years OPT to working in the United States.
Oh, okay.
Is that available for this program to have? Or
I'm not exactly sure, Shirley.
Okay.
If you could send me an email with that question, though, I'll
Okay.
connect with our folks in the admissions office and maybe in our international student services office, just to see what they say about it. I'm not familiar with that, but send me an email. I'd be happy to find out for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have a question?
Okay.
So I have one more question. I'm not sure if this is the correct setting for it, but I'll just throw it out there. So I see that the starting date for this program is July 12th or 13th, I think. What if, as an international student, I am unable to get my visa on time? And if there's a delay in my landing to the US, will I be able to attend the classes as per the schedule, or how would it look like for me?
We're really excited about you all joining us. And if you accepted your admissions offer and you were working on scheduling everything and there was a bit of a snag in the timing, we would certainly try to work with you to make sure that you could participate. Now, that said, it would somewhat depend on how much of a delay there is. Our courses in the summer run for 4 or 5 weeks, I think 5 weeks. So, missing 1 week is missing a fifth of the course. And so we would want to try to think about how much time is an appropriate amount of time to try and support you to make up the work that you miss, and whether maybe it makes sense to reconsider the start date if it's significant. So we would work with you and the admissions team and our graduate office, our graduate student office at Peabody College, to try and make sure we're helping you make a decision that's gonna be best for your learning. But that said, if we do understand that coming from an international setting to the United States to study comes with it a whole bunch of obstacles and challenges that we want to make sure you feel like you're able to navigate those and to get here, hopefully on time. But if something comes up, we would try to work with you as best we could. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Our Office of Graduate Admissions is responding to Shirley's question about STEM OPT. So L&D is not included. Okay, we are nearing the end of our time. I think Leah has a couple more slides to share, just to give you a heads up. One about social media.
Yes. So L&D is active on social media, most on Instagram. So we would love to follow, and we follow back. If you look at our Instagram, you really can get a sense for what the program is all about, and you can see the different experiences that we've had over the year, and just might be a new lens for you to be able to visualize yourself on campus. And then our website obviously has a lot of great information. And there is the Facebook too. That's not as active. I would direct you to the Instagram. But if you do not have Instagram, you can go through the Facebook. And I'm happy to send you whatever is on the Instagram if you do not have Instagram, like the pictures and things, if you want some of those. Next slide, just another Q&A. This is our last slide now. So any questions, housing, restaurants, literally anything, we're happy to answer.
And please take a screenshot or jot down our emails. Happy to field email questions after the webinar is over or in the coming days if something comes up that you thought of that might be helpful. We'd love to be in touch with you and just try to, like I said at the beginning, provide whatever information or insights we can to help you make a good decision for yourself.
Hopefully in your admissions packet or package, you saw that there's this new program called PALS that's sort of linking you to a current student. I am your pal. So in the next couple, hopefully this week, maybe next week, I will be getting all of your emails and we'll reach out with some more information. And you can email me through the PALS system or just straight from this email. So either is fine, but look for an email from me in the coming weeks.
Excellent. Special thanks to Leah and Katie for joining us, and thanks to all of you for making the time to be here. Feel free to follow up with emails if there's anything else you want to talk about. We can respond there, or I'm happy to schedule Zoom calls with folks individually if that's easier to try and talk through some of your plans and provide some more information. Hope you all have a great night.